All right, we did a prediction video the other day talking about all of the undefeated teams that have matchups coming up here in week 9. And today we're going to do another prediction video. There's a lot of great games this weekend. Texas A&M and LSU maybe being the biggest coming up tomorrow night. But a lot of good games, even some tonight, Friday night. I will be live tonight, by the way, streaming these Friday night games if y'all want to come hang out and watch some football. But in this video, I'm going to go through some of the bigger games of week 9. And I'm going to give you my prediction on those games. Shout out to the sponsor of this video, PrizePicks. But you guys are going to help me out. I've been taking a beating the last couple of weeks over here on PrizePicks, and I've heard from a lot of y'all in the comment section that y'all are winning. So I'm not even going to make any picks in today's PrizePicks promotion. I just want you to tell me in the comments, what are y'all taking this week? But if you're new to PrizePicks or you don't know what PrizePicks is, check out the link in the description down below there, the Kings of Daily Fantasy Football. It's literally as simple as choosing more or less on a couple of different player stats. So you come up here, you click college football. It's got a list of available players down here and a search bar so you can type in any player or any team that you want. Ashton Gentry, of course, plays tonight, the running back for Boise State. If you wanted to make a play on Ashton Gentry, you literally just choose more or less than 192.5 rush yards. It even lets you change the number on some of these if you want. If you change the number down, it lowers the payout. If you change the number up, it, of course, raises the payout. So you can go 192 or you can go just more than 149. You know what? I feel like I need to be a little conservative here. I kind of like the more than 149 there. I'm not going to make a play on the video, though. Y'all tell me what to do. Anyway, you have to make at least 2 picks. You can pick up to 5 different players, win up to 100 times your money. It's a lot of fun, and it makes watching the games a little bit more interesting. Check them out, prizepicks.com. Make sure you use promo code Uncle Lou. The link is in the description down below. All right, let's start with a few games coming up tonight, Friday night at 7:30. We've got Louisville on the road at Boston College. At 10:30, Boise State at UNLV, which could be a really good game. Both those teams have just one loss, I believe. And Rutgers on the road at Southern Cal. Southern Cal trying to bounce back from a couple of bad losses over the last couple of weeks. They're a pretty big home favorite over Rutgers. Louisville at Boston College, 2 ACC teams. Louisville lost a tough one last week to Miami. Not the year they've wanted to have. I think they're 4-3, but they're a 7.5-point road favorite tonight against Boston College, and I like Louisville in that one. Boise State on the road at UNLV. This is the best game of the night, I think. Boise State really, really good. If you haven't had a chance to see Ashton Gentry play yet, the running back for Boise State, you should check this game out. Now, it's a late one. It doesn't come on until 10:30, but they're on the road at UNLV. And believe it or not, both of these teams still have playoff aspirations. I think Boise State gets a lot of coverage because of Gentry, and they're currently ranked. But UNLV is sitting on just 1 loss, and it's a 3-point loss to Syracuse. Now, Syracuse isn't a great team, but they do have a Power 5 win over Houston. They beat Houston 27-7. They've beat Kansas 23-20. That's 2 Power 5 wins. And then, of course, the loss to Syracuse. They then beat Oregon State this past week. So they've got 3 Power 5 wins, UNLV does. How many does Boise State have? None. I don't believe Boise State has a single Power 5 win. Now, they're 5-1, and most people think they're a better team, but their wins are against Georgia Southern, PRST. What is that? I don't even know what that is. Prairie State? I don't even know what that is. They beat Washington State, so there's a Power 5 win. They beat Utah State and Hawaii, and tonight they play on the road at UNLV. This will be a really, really good game. UNLV, of course, you remember from a few weeks ago, their starting quarterback quit, opted out, didn't get his NIL money, whatever happened there. He basically quit the team after about 4 games. The backup has played well, though, and UNLV has been on a roll, and we'll see. This is a tough one here. I have a rule of thumb. I hate betting the road team on games that are played during the week, and, of course, Boise State is the road team in this one today. They're favored by, I think, 5.5. Let's pull it back up here. Well, it's down to 3.5, actually, so some money has come in on UNLV. What I actually like here is the over. The over-under is set at 63.5. I think both of these teams are going to score a lot of points. I'm going to watch this game just to get another look at Ashton Gentry. Come hang out and watch it. We'll be live for this game tonight. I'm going to take UNLV to win this one at home. UNLV has kind of become like my second team a little. I don't really have a second team, but if you get the joke with UNLV, you get the joke. If you don't, you don't. It's one of those if you know things, I guess. So anyway, for the games tonight, give me Louisville to win. I'm going to go out on a limb and take UNLV. For the Rutgers Southern Cal game, it's at Southern Cal. I think they probably find a way to win. They're a 14-point favorite. Nothing I've seen from Southern Cal tells me I can lay 14 points with them. I won't actually bet any money on that game, but I'll take Rutgers plus 14 for my pick. All right, let's move into some of the bigger games on Saturday. Starting at noon, Nebraska's on the road at Ohio State. Ohio State a huge favorite. They're favored by 25. I actually like Ohio State to win and cover here. Ohio State's had a week off after that loss to Oregon. Nebraska, on the other hand, got absolutely destroyed last week by Indiana. Nebraska had a lot of eggs in the basket of this Ohio State game. If you go back to like week 2 or 3, especially after they beat Colorado, a lot of people started jumping forward to the Nebraska-Ohio State game and wondering, could Nebraska possibly be undefeated when they play this game at Ohio State? And if you looked at the schedule at the time, it kind of appeared that way. But then they lost to Illinois 31-24, a close loss, before picking up a couple of wins against two bad teams, Purdue and Rutgers, and then just got absolutely destroyed last week on the road at Indiana. Now, it was a classic look-ahead spot last week with Ohio State coming up on the schedule this week, and back-to-back road games here at Indiana last week, at Ohio State this week. I think Ohio State will come out ready to play after that loss to Oregon a few weeks ago. I look for Ohio State to get the win. This is a big number here, and I'm not all that confident in it, but I'm going to take Ohio State and lay the 25 points. Notre Dame on the road at Navy, we talked about the other day in the previous prediction video, so click back and check that out if you want, as well as Washington at Indiana. Oklahoma on the road at Ole Miss. You don't want to talk about two different teams here. This Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss offense against Oklahoma, which has no offense at all. It's been a just embarrassingly bad season for Oklahoma over on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I know they've had some injury issues at the wide receiver position, but the reality is everybody has injuries in college football. The bigger problem really with Oklahoma has been the quarterback situation. They kind of ran Dylan Gabriel out of town. He's now at Oregon, quarterbacking the number 1 team in the country and on top of everyone's Heisman list. They decided to go with the younger, the young kid, Jackson Arnold. It didn't work out. They benched him. They put Hawkins in. He hasn't been any good. They're going back to Arnold. It's been kind of a back and forth thing. It's been really, really bad. There is just no way Oklahoma can keep up with Ole Miss here in this game point for point. Not to mention the fact it's a road game for Oklahoma. It's the same Oklahoma team last week at home that struggled to get a first down against South Carolina in a blowout loss. Now they got to go on the road. Looks like another blowout to me. Ole Miss is a 20-point favorite. I like Ole Miss minus the 20. Georgia Tech at Virginia Tech. I'm going to have to go with Georgia Tech because Haynes King is out at quarterback at Georgia Tech. And some teams are more quarterback dependent than others. Haynes King has been the obvious star of the Georgia Tech offense going back to last year and the early part of this year. Without him, they're just not the same team. I think Virginia Tech, already a tough place to play, it gets to win at home over a Haynes Kingless Georgia Tech. What do we have coming up later in the day? 12:45, Arkansas on the road at Mississippi State. I like Arkansas there. Pretty good offense. Mississippi State, probably the worst team in the SEC. I think Arkansas can pick up a road win there. Illinois at Oregon at 3:30. Now, this game I think will be good, and this is a game I think the line's just a little bit too high. Oregon's favored by 22.5 at home. They're really good. They destroyed Purdue last week on a Friday night game, I think it was, a week after beating Ohio State, and they look really, really good. But the style of football that Illinois plays, they're pretty good defensively. They can run the ball. I think Illinois slows the game down enough to stay within 3 touchdowns. So I just can't lay 22.5 here. I do think Oregon wins the game. I don't think it'll be particularly close, but I'm going to take Illinois plus the 22.5 points there. BYU on the road at UCF. This is a weird one here. BYU is undefeated, blew out Kansas State, who we all know is a pretty good team. Central Florida, on the other hand, has been kind of a disappointment. Got blown out by Colorado, lost another game, albeit a close one last week. They are at home, but Central Florida is favored by 2.5 points here. Against the number 11 ranked team in the country, BYU. Now, there are some people out there who think BYU is a little bit overrated. If you're one of those people, go ahead and jump on the UCF train at minus 2.5. This is just so weird to me, the line UCF being favored over BYU, that I'm staying away from it in terms of a betting perspective. But I'm going to trust the people in the desert to put these numbers out. They're not making those buildings smaller out there. They're making them bigger. I'm going to take UCF as a home favorite to win a close one over BYU. Missouri on the road at Alabama. Boy, it feels like Alabama needs not only a win, but a really good game. I think they're going to get it. Missouri's got some injuries. It looks like Brady Cook's not going to play at quarterback. And even with Brady Cook, Missouri has been disappointing this year. Started out the season ranked inside the top 10. I thought that was a little bit overrated. struggled early on in some close wins against some teams that really shouldn't have been that close. And then, of course, just got absolutely destroyed on the road at Texas A&M a couple of weeks ago. Just a complete mismatch there. Didn't look good last week in a game against Auburn where Brady Cook got hurt. I think Alabama gets right this week. They're a 17.5-point favorite. I like Alabama to win and cover that 17.5 at home. Let's see. What other 3:30 games do we have here? Oklahoma State at Baylor. Baylor is favored by 7. I'll take Oklahoma State plus the 7. They're disappointing, no question about it, but they have played better the last few weeks than they played to start the season. They're probably the most disappointing team, one of the most disappointing teams in the country to me, Oklahoma State. A veteran offensive line, Ollie Gordon returning at quarterback, and it just hasn't worked this year for whatever reason. I thought they played, though, probably their best game of the year and a loss to BYU last week. 7 points seems too much to me for a Baylor team that hasn't been all that impressive under Dave Aranda the last couple of years. I'll take Oklahoma State plus the 7. Heading into some of the primetime games, we have Texas on the road at Vandy. This is a game that's getting talked about a lot, and it really has nothing to do with this game in particular, and, of course, everything to do with the fact that Vanderbilt beat Alabama the week after Alabama played Georgia about a month ago. And, of course, Georgia and Texas played this past weekend, and now Vandy catches Texas at home off the back of the Georgia game. Texas is an 18.5-point road favorite. One of the most popular picks of the week is just to kind of blindly take Vandy. And I do think Vandy's a better team than anything we've seen Vandy put on the field in recent years. I find it hard to believe that they're going to upset 2 top 5 teams in the same season, though. I think Texas gets the win. Now, can Texas cover the 18.5? I think they can. I think Vanderbilt's going to have a hard time moving the ball on Texas. I love their quarterback just like everybody else does, Pavia. I just don't think it's enough against what I still think is a pretty good Texas defense. I like the Longhorns to cover the 18.5. I know that's going to be an unpopular pick. A game that a lot of times is one of the biggest games of the year, and this week is kind of an afterthought. Florida State on the road at Miami. Florida State is just it's just a shell of themselves. It's almost too sad to watch Florida State play at this point. They don't have talent. They don't have heart. They've got players that I'm not going to accuse them of quitting, but they've got some players that are not playing this week due to some strange injuries. One of them has a bruised palm. I'm going to give these players the benefit of the doubt and assume that they are injured. But what you have to understand if you're a Florida State fan, or even if you're Florida State itself, because of what happened at the end of last season, it's starting to put off the impression that some of these players might just be cashing it in for the rest of the season. Florida State created a culture and an environment around their program at the end of last season that made it okay to quit if you don't perceive there to be a real reason to play the game. And I'm of course talking about the Orange Bowl. Now, I know we see players opt out of bowl games all the time. We never see basically an entire starting unit opt out, which is what we saw last year at Florida State with the constant crying, bitching, and moaning about being left out of the playoffs and everything that went along with that. And it created the perception that Florida State is an environment that makes it okay to just say, you know what, this season ain't it for us. Why play? I'm not accusing these players of doing that, but I'll say this. I won't be at all surprised if going forward into the month of November, there's a lot more Florida State starters who have to sit out due to some injuries. And I'll just leave it at that. With that being said, Miami's a 21-point home favorite. That's not nearly enough. I seriously think Miami might win this game by 40. I'll take the Canes. West Virginia on the road at Arizona. West Virginia desperately needs a win. I don't think they're going to get it. I like Arizona to beat the Mountaineers. Neil Brown could be running out of time quick up there in Morgantown. Utah on the road at Houston. Utah's a 4-point favorite. I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole. Utah, another disappointing team this year. Cam Rising's injured again, coming back next year, I guess, for an 8th year. I don't know. We'll see. I'm to be honest with you, I loved Cam Rising. He was one of the funnest players to watch in all of college football. I cheered for him last year when he was injured to get healthy and come back. I was looking forward to watching him play this year. I'm kind of over the Utah Cam Rising soap opera at this point. I've just reached a fatigue level with hearing about it. Nothing against Utah. They're a fun team to pull for. And they'll probably win this game on the road at Houston, but I have got no interest in watching or gambling on that game at all. Penn State on the road at Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin can keep this one close. Penn State's favored by 6.5. I'd love to get 7 points if I bet Wisconsin here. Right now it's at 6.5. You could buy it up to 7. I think this is a dangerous game for Penn State. They host Ohio State next week. Is that right? And you got to go on the road this week and play Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin got blown out by Bama, and we kind of wrote them off, but they have the potential, if things go their way, I think, to keep this game close with Penn State. And since it's at home, if it's close, you'll have a chance to win it. I'm going to go with Wisconsin plus the points in that game. And then you got LSU and Texas A&M, and I've talked about this game a lot this week, even though I haven't officially made a prediction on video, I don't think, but I am going with LSU to get the win on the road at Texas A&M, and I can spend 10 minutes breaking the game down. Literally, to me, it comes down to quarterback play, and I trust Nussmeier a lot more. I think Nussmeier is the best quarterback in the SEC, and I think you can make a case that he's one of the best 2 or 3 quarterbacks, at least in terms of pro potential, in all of college football this year. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, these are highlight factories, and they're on Heisman watch lists and all that, and I haven't seen Nussmeier show up on any of those lists. But if you watch the kid play, he can make every throw in the book. He's fun to watch. Their offense appears to be clicking. They got a big win against Ole Miss a couple of weeks ago and then didn't skip a beat last week when they had to go on the road to Arkansas, and they easily took care of them. Now they got to go on the road again a second week in a row and take on Texas A&M, who, of course, looks a lot better than what we saw in week 1 when they lost a close one to Notre Dame. I just trust Nussmeier more than Wegman right now. Now, Texas A&M's got a good defense, and they could run the ball, which is something LSU has struggled to do, run the ball. Nussmeier will have to have a big game if they're going to win. I think he can do it. LSU's a 1-point underdog on the road at College Station. I think LSU wins outright. In-state rivalry game, Michigan State at Michigan. I like Michigan State to possibly win the game. They're a 4.5-point underdog, and I'll take the 4.5 points. And I think they could win this game on the road at Michigan. Season down the drain for Michigan. Just terrible offense, horrible quarterback play. Sharon Moore is going to have to figure something out there really quick in the offseason in terms of the offense overall, and particularly at the quarterback position. It may mean going into the portal or whatever else, but they're going to have to do something to get that offense rolling, because this was unacceptable for Michigan this year. It was really, really bad. And Michigan State, on the other hand, I think is trending up. Brand new coach Jonathan Smith came in from Oregon State. I thought it might take a year or so, and it will. They'll get better next year even than they are this year, but they're better already at this point in year 1 with Jonathan Smith than I thought they would be. I think Michigan State's a live dog here and could win the game. I'll take Michigan State plus 4.5. Auburn on the road at Kentucky. This might be a first one to score 10 points type of deal. Wins the game. The over-under is 43.5. I'll take under 43.5. Kentucky's favored by 1.5. I think Kentucky probably wins the game at home, rebounding from a tough loss to Florida this past week. Auburn and Michigan are basically the same team. They got no offense and terrible quarterback play. Kentucky's at home, so I'll take them to win, but I like under 43.5 points in that game, but neither one of those offenses really can move the ball. Kansas at Kansas State, I like Kansas State to win big. SMU at Duke, I like SMU to win really big. SMU's favored by 11.5. This is one of my favorite picks of the week. I think SMU covers the 11.5 by twice. I think they could win this game by 3 touchdowns. I really like SMU to get a win on the road at Duke. All right, there you go. That's my thoughts on some of the bigger games coming up this weekend, week 9 of the 2024 college football season. Make sure you check out PrizePicks. The link is in the description down below. Use promo code Uncle Lou, and they're going to hook you up. And I'll see you guys tonight for the game stream. Have a good morning.